Hey guys, welcome to part 5 of the Learning Python series. So this is going to be a video all about working with lists. So previously we got an introduction to lists, we learned how to index it, manipulate some parts of the list. Today we're going to delve a lot deeper into the functions that are associated with lists. We're going to look at almost a dozen functions, and yeah, lists are a really important tool in Python. You're going to use them a ton, and you're going to use these functions a ton as well. So feel free to rewatch the video and play around with the functions after you're done watching. So getting right into it, let's create two lists just to mess around with today. We'll create a list of numbers, so we'll call that nums. And as we know, you can make a list like this. So we'll just mix all these numbers up. We'll do 6, we'll do 12, we'll do 3, we'll do 19, we'll do 43, we'll do 123, and then we'll do 1. So we have a list of numbers. We'll go ahead and make a list of animals again, same as we did last video. Okay, so we now have two lists, one all of numbers, one all of strings. As I said in the last video, they don't have to be just one variable type, but that's what we have here. So we're going to start with the extend function. So the extend function, it will basically add onto the end of a list another list. So for example, if I wanted to add nums to the end of the animals list, I would do animals dot extend. So I want to extend animals, and I want to extend it using nums. So now if I go ahead and print animals, we'll see that this new list also contains all of our numbers over here. So that's one interesting function. Moving on, we have the dot append function. So this is super helpful. Rather than extending a list by a list, you can extend a list with an element. So what I can do is I can do animals dot append, and for example, I want to add flamingo. So if I do that and then I go ahead and print animals, then we'll see that at the end of the list it was zebra, now it's flamingo. So you can keep doing this. You can dot append flamingo, you can dot append hamster, for example. Now it'll append flamingo and hamster. So this is a super helpful function because you can add things onto the end of a list. Another function is going to be the dot insert function. So similar to the dot append function, this also will add individual elements to a list. The difference being you can specify the index within the list that you want to add the value. So animals dot insert, this insert function, it's going to take in an index, and then it's going to take in your element. So pretend I wanted to put in between bird and fish, I wanted to put hamster. We know that bird is its index is 0. We know fish's index is 1. So if I want to insert at index in between bird and fish, I would insert at index 1, and then I would put in hamster. Now if I go ahead and print animals, we'll see it goes bird, hamster, fish. So where fish currently is, I put hamster, and then it shifted everything else to the right. So this is also really helpful. Rather than appending something to the end of the list, I can specify, hey, I want this element here, I want this element here. Super helpful. And then building onto this, we have the dot remove function. So as you can guess, what this is going to do is it's going to remove items from a list. So the nice thing is dot remove, you just put in the value. You don't have to put in the index of it. You can just put in a value, and it will go ahead and grab the first instance of that value within a list and remove it. So for example, pretend I no longer want dog to be in the list of animals. So we can do dot remove dog. And if I print animals, we can see dog is no longer in there. Of course, this also applies to our list of numbers over here. Pretend I wanted to move 12 from nums. If I go ahead and print nums now, we can see that there's no longer 12 in here. So we talked about appending, inserting, and extending. Those all add things. Dot remove here, it will take out a value. And like I said, keep in mind, pretend we were to have two instances of bird in this list, one at the beginning, one at the end. It's going to take out the one at the beginning first. So it's going to go from the first instance of it and that's where it's going to remove it. So keep that in mind. Another important function that will remove things is going to be the clear function. So this, super simple, clear, it will just clear the entire list. So if I'm clearing nums right now, if I print that, you can see here we just have an empty list. Similarly with animals, if I run this, it will just completely wipe the list. So run animals, there we go. So it's an empty list. So that's helpful. You want to reset your list, wipe it completely clean. Next we have pop. So another function that will remove something from a list. This though, if I do animals.pop, what this does is it's not removing a specific value or anywhere at a specific index. Well, I guess technically it is. It's removing the last value. What it's doing is .pop, similar to .append. The way .append adds it to the end, .pop will just remove it from the end. So animals.pop, and then if I print animals, you can see here that it removed zebra because zebra's at the end. So if I do .pop twice, it removed zebra and giraffe. So you can see how that would be helpful. So for example, if I were to append, so animals.append, and then I put in hamster. Oops, let's make that a string, hamster. We know that append will always add it to the end of the list, and then maybe later on I realize, oh, I no longer want the last element in the list. We know the last element's hamster. I can just pop it off. So if I run this, it'll be the same list as before. There we go, zebra. So that pop function can be helpful. Another really helpful function, .index. So this is super helpful. Keep this in mind. If I want to, I use the index function if I want to search for a value in the list. So for example, if I want to find if or where dog is in a list. So pretend I want to find where dog is in the list. Maybe I don't have the values in a list. Maybe the user gave me values and I want to see, oh, did they put this in the list? If they gave me these values, bird, fish, cat, dog, elephant, giraffe, I want to find if dog's in the list. So I can do animals.index, and then I put in my value, so dog, and then this will return an index. So if I print this index, it will return an integer. So there we go, 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3, that's where dog is in the list. It also, similar to the remove function, similar to the remove function, this will only index the first instance of dog. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that obviously we're indexing, so remember it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. Also, if you ask for something that isn't in the list, so for example, in this list, flamingo is not in this list of animals, and if I index that, it will just pop up with an error. So it will error out and say flamingo is not in the list. So we can use this to our advantage if we're looking for if something's in the list, but also where something is in the list. And then moving on, we have count. Count is helpful because it'll tell us how many times a certain element appears in the list. So for example, if I do animals, and I don't have anything that appears here twice, so we'll just duplicate fish here. There we go. And if I go ahead and do animals.count, then I do fish, this will return, and I print that, this will return an integer of how many times the element fish appears, and we know it appears twice, so it should return 2. There we go, it returned 2. Similarly, if I put bird, and I run that, it will return 1 because bird only appears once. So that can be helpful. Maybe even think about how you could pair that with indexing, because we know indexing will only return the first instance of a value. So maybe if we might want to check if there's a count greater than 1, and then when we're indexing, we know that there's more to be indexed in the list. So think about using that. And then we also have another really important function when working with lists, the .sort function. So if I do, well, I'll work with nums for this one, but it works with animals too. If I do num print or nums.sort, and then I go ahead and print nums, we can see it goes 1, 3, 6, 12, 19, 43, 123. So it's completely sorted my list for me. Super helpful. You know, this is a perfect example of Python being a great beginner language in many other languages. If you're taking, you know, AP Comp Sci, or you're just learning another language, you know that sorting is something you have to do manually. So it's super helpful that they have this sort function for us, and it's super efficient, super fast. So it will sort it in ascending order. And similarly, we can do this with animals, the our list of strings, and it will sort it in ascending order of alphabetically. So there we go: bird, cat, dog, B, C, D, E, F, G, Z. So super helpful. You'll probably use that function a lot as well. Additionally, we have the dot reverse function. So kind of as the name implies, what this will do is it'll just reverse a list. So if I go ahead and print animals after I dot reversed it, we can see that it started as bird, fish, cat, dog, elephant, so on. But now it's fish, zebra, giraffe, elephant, dog, cat, fish, bird. So it's just fully reversed the list. So now fish, which was the final element, has become the beginning element, zebra, the second element, so on. And I can do the same with nums here. If I just go here and type nums, our first element will now be 1, and then I'll go 1, 2, 3. So there we go. So it'll just reverse the list. So that's helpful. And then finally, moving on to our last function, we have dot copy. So this can come in handy when you want to copy one list to another list. So if I want to make animals part 2, and then all I have to do is do animals.copy, and what this will do is it'll copy the list of animals to animals part 2. And now if I print animals part 2, it will be exactly what animals is. So you can see here it is animals. So those are basic functions when working with lists. There are more. This is pretty much what you'll need for starting out. It can be pretty complicated. Feel free to rewatch the video, really take it all in, because these are essential for projects moving forward. So play around with these functions, try creating some projects that incorporate these, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed.